Well, Medendar, good morning, everybody, and a very warm welcome to this annual public meeting of the Royal Cornwall Hospitals NHS Trust, where we give an account of ourselves to the public for the years working up until the end of March this year. But we also take a look forward into an exciting but challenging future. Over the course of the meeting, you'll hear from our Chief Executive, Steve Williamson, who's sitting next to me, our Deputy Chief Executive, Kim O'Keefe, who is also the dual Chief Nursing Officer for the Royal Cornwall Hospitals and for Cornwall Partnerships NHS Foundation Trust, known as CFT, with whom we work very closely in partnership. We will also hear from our Chief Finance Officer, Ian Dean, on a financial year where we, along with the whole Cornwall and Isles of Scilly system, have broken even against considerable odds. We've improved services while saving some £35 million. But whenever you get to the top of one hill, there is always a higher one ahead. This year, we have to save over £49 million, and so far, we are broadly on track to do so. Ian will say more, but I do want to stress that our board has a forensic line of sight to our cash position to make sure we always have enough cash to operate. A savings target of this magnitude cannot be achieved without affecting our workforce, since the payroll accounts for nearly 70% of our budget. We are consulting staff about how to achieve change, and we will be listening very, very carefully to their views. The board has thought about this very deeply and carefully, and is really mindful of the worry for staff and for your families. Once we have the results of consultation later in the autumn, we will make decisions in line with our values of respect, compassion, honesty, and teamwork. We will do all we can to minimize the effect on patients and staff. The Chief Executive will say more about this later. But before all that, I would like to pay tribute to my predecessor, Mary McLean, who demitted office as chair on 6th of January this year. Most of the year under review was therefore under her chairship, and I took over on the 7th of January, and I feel that I'm very much, as Isaac Newton put it, standing on her shoulders to see further. Thanks also go to Richard Stevenson, the former vice chair, who completed his period of office shortly after I started, although I hasten to add the two things are not connected. We miss Richard's wise counsel, but are delighted that he was succeeded by Isabel Down. During the course of the 24-25 financial year, we also welcomed Uzma Bozai, Adrian Davis, and Matt Hill as new non-executive directors. Adrian will be familiar to many as a former vice chair of CFT. While mentioning CFT, I would also like to thank their outgoing chair, Margaret Schwartz. A little bird tells me she may be watching, so could we thank her in the usual way, please? So all the very best for the future, Margaret, if you are watching. It's been great to work with you, and we look forward to working with your successor once appointed in 2026. I would also like to give a shout out to the wonderful Beatrice Dyer, who has chaired our League of Friends literally for decades. Beatrice is stepping back at the end of this year with our warmest thanks. Congratulations also go to non-executive director Richard Kramer on his award of an OBE in the New Year Honours List for services to people with disabilities. The 2024-25 year was one of profound challenge and change across the NHS. The incoming government set out its stall following the Darzi report, which characterised the NHS as being in intensive care but capable of resuscitation. Darzi identified three necessary shifts: from hospital to community, analogue to digital, and treatment to prevention. When I took up appointment in January, NHS England was yet to be abolished. There were 43 integrated care boards commissioning services rather than 27 as now, and our ICB was standalone for Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly, whereas now it is clustered with that of Devon. I would like to congratulate John Gavett, the chair of the Cornwall and Isles of Scilly ICB, on being appointed chair of the cluster. NHS England itself is in the process of being absorbed into the Department of Health and Social Care. In the meantime, it has a new chair and chief executive. An ambitious 10-year plan for the NHS has been launched to give effect to the 3 shifts. It includes the possibility for all NHS trusts to become foundation trusts, and for integrated health organisations to be led by foundation trusts to plan and deliver healthcare for their populations. And if there's one thing I think I've learned about the people of Cornwall in my few months living in Cornwall is that you don't like to be told what to do by people up there in England. So I think the opportunity to plan, design and deliver our own healthcare for Cornwall, in Cornwall, is a wonderful opportunity. I don't want to steal anyone's thunder later in the meeting, but it would be remiss of me not to mention the single biggest NHS investment in Cornwall ever for a new women and children's hospital on the Treliske site to open in 2031 with an investment from the National New Hospital Programme of some £350 million. This is a huge declaration in Cornwall's only acute hospital. League tables were recently published for trusts across England. I'm really delighted to report that the Royal Cornwall Hospitals came in at 18th out of 134 acute trusts, one of the best performances in the wider southwest, which stretches from Bath to Penzance, and the best on the peninsula, on the southwest peninsula. In the subcategory of large acute trusts, we were 4th out of 22. The league tables measure financial health, but also the things the public really care about, such as waiting times for planned or elective care, urgent and emergency care, and cancer. Trusts have also been placed in 4 segments, where again the Royal Cornwall Hospitals are well placed in segment 2, and I'm sure Steve will have more to say on segmentation. We are a leading national performer in elective care, cancer, and maternity services. We know we have more to do in urgent and emergency care, but we have seen very significant improvements since the Care Quality Commission visited in the spring. In particular, our performance is greatly and consistently improved since this time last year. Improving urgent and emergency care is our overriding priority, and we have committed as a board to be better than our previous best and to fight for every minute. Now, Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly are wonderful places to live in and visit, but the whole of the county has only one emergency department, always open, serving upwards of 500,000 residents. The distance of 55 miles by road between Truro and Plymouth is further than that between emergency departments anywhere else in England, including Barnstaple to Exeter or Taunton. In Cornwall, 1 in 4 residents is over 65, compared with about 1 in 6 in England as a whole. Cornwall is over 80 miles long, and in addition to the resident population, receives an incredible 18 million day visitors a year, plus more than 4 million who stay at least one night. This provides some context to the challenges faced by Treliske and the ambulance service. However, with the support of all our partners, we are making inroads, and we are determined to continue to do so. Finally, I would like to thank all of our magnificent staff, our outstanding executive team led by the Chief Executive, our excellent non-executive directors, and all those who contribute to our charitable and voluntary work, whether they be donors or volunteers or both. And I'd also like to give warm thanks to our many partners, too numerous to mention, but essential to our success. Our hospitals clearly are what they are because of you. I will leave others to comment in more detail on our annual report and accounts, our plans for the future, and our quality and safety. Whatever the comings and goings of the plumbing and wiring of the NHS, your Royal Cornwall Hospitals will be here for you for every hour of every day, and in the case of the main Treliske Hospital, our lights are always on. We have a vision of becoming the Royal Cornwall Hospital, the Royal Cornwall University Hospitals, since we believe the people of Cornwall deserve their own university hospital to sit alongside the 2 in Devon. We have this aspiration not to win a badge, although I think it does have quite a nice ring about it, but because university hospitals have measurably better outcomes for patients, attract and retain research-led staff, and recruit the students on whom the future depends. We are already a teaching hospital. We now need to take the next step. In the meantime, my final thanks go to you, our patients, our visitors, and their families. You are what we are here for, and we will never forget that. So thanks for listening. We'll now move on to the main part of our meeting. If I could just do a bit of housekeeping first. We have apologies from Aled Jones, a non-executive director or an associate non-executive director. And I think looking at our company secretary, Lindsay, we don't have any other apologies. If we can go on to item 2, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest that board members wish to declare in relation to items presented today, other than those we already have disclosed in our register of interests? Okay, thank you. If there aren't any, we now move on to item 3, the minutes of the previous annual public meeting. And could I invite the board formally to approve the minutes of the last annual public meeting held on the 19th of September 2024. Thank you very much. And so now moving on to item 4, the annual report and accounts for the period ending on the 31st of March 2025, and also a look forward into the future. Could I invite our Chief Executive, please, Steve Williamson, to address us?
Thank you, David. And if I could ask us to move to the next slide, please, Pete. Welcome to everybody who's joined us online. Thank you for taking the time as we look back on the last 12 months and, as David said, look a little bit into the future for Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly. I want to start by acknowledging a point that David has already made. Our fantastic staff are at the heart of every single thing that we achieve. And as Chief Executive, it's a real privilege to be able to be the Chief Executive of such fantastic colleagues across our organisation. So thank you to colleagues that I know work incredibly hard in what is at times an incredibly demanding and challenging environment right across Royal Cornwall Hospitals, NHS Trust and the wider NHS. Thank you for everything you do. I'd also like to share, as David has just done, my thanks to Mary, our previous chair, for her tireless efforts in leading our board. We are all very, very grateful for Mary's leadership and stewardship. And I'd also like to welcome David to his role as our new chair, and particularly to thank David for the way, David, in which you've reached out to so many colleagues across Royal Cornwall Hospitals, NHS Trust and across our wider health and care system to help ensure that we can be assured our board is doing everything we possibly can to support our staff and to support our trust ambitions. I know colleagues across our organisation have been very grateful for the time that you've given in many, many parts of our organisation. But if I can move to the next slide, Pete. I'm starting with our supported and valued people strategic objective. And I'll start with this because of the point I've just made about the importance of staff across our organisation. The NHS nationally is facing really extraordinary challenges of rising demand, workforce shortages and challenges in some areas, and significant financial demands, all as we come out of the COVID pandemic. Yet despite that context and despite that background, our trust has made some really extraordinary progress over the last 12 months, and that is purely testament to our amazing staff. We really are very, very grateful for everything you do, and to our fantastic volunteers, and to the partner organisations and the wider voluntary sector that we work with across Royal Cornwall Hospitals and across Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly. One of the things that struck me earlier on this year was what the CQC said about our organisation. And that comes from their visit to inspect our urgent and emergency care and medicine services in April this year. And if we reflect back to what the environment was like in April, we were coming out of an exceptionally demanding winter period. There was really very, very significant pressure on all parts of our hospitals and services. And CQC saw that demand. They saw the pressure. They saw the extraordinary steps that teams were taking every day to manage that. Overall, CQC said from that inspection that those services were assessed as requiring improvement. And right from that inspection in April, colleagues have been working incredibly hard, and we've really made some very, very significant steps since then. And I think CQC, were to come back in, would recognise that. But what CQC also said was that those services were assessed as good for care and compassion. And they said that about all staff, all teams, and all components of those services that they saw. And I just wanted to pay a reflection to staff to be able to demonstrate that care and that compassion in those times of really extraordinary challenge. I think directly reflects that care and compassion that runs through staff right across Royal Cornwall Hospitals. And of course, that's one of our overarching core values for our staff. So thank you for that. We absolutely recognise as a board the importance of doing everything we can to support staff and colleagues across our organisation. We know that our staff survey results have shown that we do have areas where we need to do more to support staff across our organisation, and we're absolutely committed to doing that and committed to building a culture of kindness, openness and safety where every voice is heard and valued. And David and I have said it many times, everybody in this organisation should feel safe to speak up. You should feel safe to speak up openly, and you should feel safe to speak up confidentially through our freedom to speak up mechanisms where you need that confidentiality. So please be assured that you have those mechanisms to do that. I mentioned our volunteers. We work closely with volunteers across our organisation, and one of the things we celebrated over the last 18 months is the 80th anniversary of the Friends of Royal Cornwall Hospital, an outstanding group whose kindness and support continue to make a really profound difference. Can I say thank you to all of our volunteers for the generosity of time and commitment and compassion that you give, and to say thank you to your families as well for giving us a little bit of your time. And a particular thank you to volunteers at Marie Therese House who've gone from strength to strength with almost 90 new volunteers joining us just in the space of the last 12 months. Fantastic to see that. And also I was delighted to be at the recent opening of the new rehabilitation garden in Marie Therese House to really improve the access to rehabilitation for residents, for patients, for staff and families. And I know the feedback has been incredibly positive. I also want to recognise the amazing diversity that is now in our trust. We have colleagues from more than 80 different countries working right now in Royal Cornwall Hospitals, complementing our other fantastic staff to provide a real enriched mix of skill, experience and innovation to help us to deliver the best possible care that we can. Thank you to everybody for the services that you provide. As I mentioned with regards to the staff survey, as a board and an organisation, we're determined to do everything we can to support our colleagues and to find further ways to enable us to provide the very best environment for staff across our organisation and for those who come into our care. If we move to the next slide, our second strategic objective is safe, high quality care. And we've seen some exceptional progress over the course of the last 12 months. We've seen very significant reductions in the waiting times for planned care and cancer treatment. And I'm proud to be able to say that we're now amongst some of the best performers in the Southwest region for many aspects of planned care and for cancer care treatment. And in fact, for timely access to cancer care treatment, we're amongst the very best in the country, with over 86% of patients starting cancer treatment within 62 days of referral. A really important target that sets out very clearly the timely access to what we know is very high quality cancer care and other elective services. Those improvements are a testament to the passion and commitment of our colleagues, and they reflect some of the innovations and the transformations and the changes that we've collectively made in how we provide support to our patients and to each other. We've seen improvements in many other areas. So at the end of March 2025, over 90% of patients received non-urgent diagnostic tests within 6 weeks, a fantastic performance and one of the leading performances in the Southwest region. And almost 70% of patients went from initial referral from their first referral into Royal Cornwall hospitals to definitive treatment, either through outpatient procedure or through surgery within 18 weeks. A really important standard right across the NHS. And Royal Cornwall Hospitals has been on a really significant journey over the past 3 years, moving out of national oversight for some aspects of elective care into being one of the leading trusts in the region and in some areas nationally for improving the timeliness to access elective care. Across the whole of our urgent and emergency care system, so our emergency department, our urgent treatment centres and our minor injury units, 78% of patients attending those services were seen, treated, admitted or discharged within 4 hours. A really significant performance. I'm really pleased to see that that's continuing to improve in this year. We are, though, of course, challenged within the 4-hour standard within the emergency department, and that continues to be a significant priority. And David's already mentioned that improving urgent and emergency care access is our overarching priority as a trust. Patient safety remains our absolute focus. Whilst we reported 2 Never events this year, we are assured that the robust investigations and the learnings that follow from those Never events and the Care Quality Commission assessment that I've already mentioned in May and April of this year highlighted again the compassion of our staff, and we welcome all of the recommendations that the Care Quality Commission have made, and many of those recommendations have already been progressed and concluded with immediate actions that were put in place from the feedback that we had. And we've seen some really significant levels of patient engagement. Can I say thank you to all of our patients for the feedback that you give. In the last 12 months, we've had more than 63,000 friends and family tests completed, and over 92% of inpatients rating their care as good or very good. A fantastic testament to our staff and the services that we provide, and of course, an area that we want to see even further improvements going forward. So if we move to the next slide. Our third strategic objective is a journey of improvement. David's already mentioned the financial delivery that RCHT achieved, and Ian will take us through that in more detail later on during this morning. But I think it's right to say the financial and the operational environment across the NHS nationally is a very, very challenging one. And it's no small achievement in that climate to achieve financial balance, to manage the services that we provide within the resources that are allocated to us. So a fantastic success to achieve that. And looking ahead, we would anticipate achieving the same result over the course of the next 12 months, notwithstanding the level of challenge that we face. We continue to work hard on urgent and emergency care performance, particularly to reduce delays within our urgent and emergency care patient flow arrangements, either within our organisation or across the wider service, to improve outcomes, to improve access, and to reduce the times that patients will need to wait. We've seen significant progress on initiatives such as Home for Lunch programme, where we work very, very hard with our patients and the wider support environment across the community to enable discharges before midday, and a significant programme of work with our clinical and operational colleagues across the organisation around our clinical vision of flow to ensure at every point in every part of our organisation we are aligned and able to reduce delays and support patient flow through our organisation. And that work, that clinical vision of flow work particularly aligns with the principles of the NHS 10-year plan, and that I'll say a little bit more about that later on, but setting out that future of healthcare across England. That plan emphasises the intent of shifting care from hospital to community where that's possible, and we've seen some fantastic examples through Royal Cornwall Hospital staff, all working in partnership with other parts of the health and care system where that's already been delivered in Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly, such as our frailty same-day emergency care services, our virtual wards and our community assessment centres, all designed to enable care to be brought much closer to patients' home and to reduce some of the potentially avoidable demands on our emergency department or other parts of our organisation. We've seen significant investment in specialist services and facilities, and that includes an upgraded cardiac catheter lab, a new gamma camera, and improvements in interventional radiology. Our fantastic new outpatient department at West Cornwall Hospital opened earlier this year. We already had an amazing team of clinical and operational support colleagues at West Cornwall Hospital outpatients, but the environment was in desperate need of refurbishment. To see a brand new outpatient department at West Cornwall Hospital is a fantastic new environment for patients and for staff. And I think reinforces the commitment we have to the importance of Royal Cornwall Hospital alongside the importance of St Michael's Hospital and Royal Cornwall Hospital to patients and communities of Cornwall in the Isles of Scilly. In partnership with Cornwall Partnership NHS Foundation Trust, we opened a fantastic new elective day surgical centre at St Austell Hospital, an amazing facility that enables some patients from North and East Cornwall who might otherwise have to come to Truro or Plymouth. In some instances, they can receive their care much closer to home at St Austell Hospital. But it also significantly provides 2 additional operating theatres, so significantly increases our capacity for elective activity and will be an important part of how we can further reduce waiting times for our elective services. And the feedback we've had from patients and from staff at the St Austell Elective Surgical Hub is fantastic, a really amazing facility, and I think a fantastic example of the importance of that partnership working, particularly in that case between Cornwall Partnerships Foundation Trust and Royal Cornwall Hospitals. And in fact, we've now seen more than 1,200 patients receive their care at that new facility. And we're also at the leading edge of digital transformation. Our patient portal is now used across all of our specialties, and we now have more than 80% of patients now accessing and engaging digitally to take greater choice and greater control of outpatient appointments, scheduling, timing, and other areas. And we have many more opportunities for digital transformation going forward. So if we move to my final slide for this part of the presentation, David's already mentioned the Women's and Children's Hospital. That was a really fantastic achievement. When the new government came into power, one of the first things they did as part of a review of the sustainability of the NHS was to undertake a review of all of the new hospital programme hospitals. And we were delighted that that review confirmed our new hospital is approved, will go ahead in the first wave of the programme, and that will bring a huge transformation to how women and children's care is delivered at Royal Cornwall Hospital. And I know it's a development that staff, not just in Women's and Children's Hospital, but across our organisation, are really excited to see that £350 million commitment, the largest ever investment, as David has said, in hospital and healthcare in Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly's history. We were equally delighted to see our amazing research work celebrated with the award of a National Institute for Health and Social Care research approval for Royal Cornwall Hospitals to be one of only 21 sites across the UK to be a commercial research delivery centre. It's a huge accolade, and in fact we are the only such centre in the whole of the southwest region, as well as being one of only 20 or 21 across the country. A great reflection of the amazing research work we already do, and a great opportunity with significant investment for us to further expand research and further expand our partnerships with commercial partners and industry as we move forward. And of course, this year we're preparing for the launch of our digital electronic patient record eCare, which is scheduled to go live in the summer of 2026. All of those transformations that are already achieved and the ones that we've got to look forward to, each and every one of them makes a direct impact on improving how we deliver care, improving where we deliver care, or improving the way in which staff are able to work together to support that care. So a really important part of our journey of improvement and looking ahead to the future. We do remain absolutely focused on doing all we can to reduce avoidable admissions, so wherever possible enabling care to be provided in settings other than an emergency department or an acute hospital, and that way we can protect and safeguard the emergency department and our hospital beds for those who need those. We'll also be refreshing our 10-year strategic plan to ensure that we're absolutely aligned with the new 10-year NHS plan and use that as a mechanism to enable the 3 shifts that David talked about, from hospital to community, from analogue to digital, and from sickness to prevention. We do see demand continuing to increase in our services. And since April this year, as an example, we've seen about a 10% increase in the number of ambulances that convey and hand over to our emergency department. So that continues to be a significant risk as we prepare and get ready for the winter. But over the same period, we've seen about a 50% reduction in how long those ambulances take to hand over. So a really significant improvement in performance despite that increase in demand. David touched on the financial environment, and I've mentioned that a number of times. The financial environment looking ahead continues to be a very, very challenging one. We do need to make almost £50 million of savings this year. And as has already been mentioned, one of the steps that we're taking with regard to that is to consult with colleagues across our trust about proposals for changes to our care group structure and about proposals for changes to our corporate services. These are always really difficult decisions for boards to take, and we're very, very mindful of the impact such decisions can have on colleagues across our organisation and the wider community. We do, though, see opportunities in reviewing our structure for that review to support the strategic plan that we have, to support the NHS's strategic plan, and support how we address some of the challenges I've just described, whilst also potentially enabling a reduction in the level of management and corporate support costs. So in that context, as an organisation, we commenced consultation, and we'll be working over the next 45 days with staff and with trade union colleagues to ensure that we get as much feedback as possible to help inform and refine those plans, and then to move forward in partnership with our trade union colleagues and teams with respect to any decisions in terms of implementation. David's mentioned that in the last 2 weeks, NHS England published their National Oversight Framework, and they also published league tables. Both the segmentation and the league tables are informed, in our case, by 21 measures, and those 21 measures are designed to give a rounded view of performance of the organisation. So they look at urgent and emergency care performance, they look at elective performance, they look at cancer performance, they look at staff satisfaction, they look at financial performance and productivity, they look at infection rates and important safety and quality outcomes such as mortality outcomes. So all designed to try to bring together potentially the most significant or the most important performance measures, quality measures, safety measures and outcome measures of NHS trusts across the country. And those 21 measures are then used to determine how trusts fit within the segmentation that David has described and how trusts fit within the league tables. The most successful trusts, the ones who deliver most significant against those metrics, are placed into segmentation 1 or segmentation 2, and we were absolutely delighted to see that the trust was placed into segment 2, and potentially more significantly, one of the top 20 trusts across the country. That is an absolute reflection of the work of colleagues right across our organisation who work tirelessly to enable those services to be delivered. So on behalf of the board, I'd like to say thank you to all of our staff who are involved in enabling those changes to happen, but also say thank you to our partners across the health and care system who also work closely with us to help enable those outcomes. But even with that position, we're determined to see further improvements going forward and to work with colleagues across our organisation as we continue that journey of improvement to deliver outstanding care for one and all. So hopefully that gives a brief summary of the performance over the last 12 months and a brief view as to some of the things we're focused on over the next 12 months. I'm going to hand over to Kim, who's joining us via Teams, to summarise the quality and safety challenges and achievements. Kim.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Kim, just before you start, could I just pause and ask if there are any questions for Steve, but also remind everybody who's watching this online that you can also ask questions on anything that we discuss throughout the meeting or anything you'd like to ask us, and those questions will be gathered up and dealt with at the end. If anyone needs any help in how to ask questions, the Company Secretary will be happy to advise. Sorry to interrupt, Kim, but I just wanted to make that point.
Thank you. Would you like me to start or?
Yes, please, Kim. Sorry.
Thank you. That's all right. Thank you. Next slide, please. So I'd like to start with what did we do to improve care over the 24-25 period and explore that by prioritising quality and safety, not only do we enhance performance, but we foster a culture of teamwork, professional curiosity, research and innovation. And I'd like to echo the board's thanks to all of our staff, no matter what role, that remain compassionate in their approach, caring and patient-centred. As Steve has covered, we had 3 CQC inspections and our overall rating requires improvement. As well as the huge response to our friends and family responses, we had over 1,600 compliments or expressions of thanks from our patients and their families. And with the inclusive use of the Carers Passport, over 450 carers benefited from meals or parking vouchers. Communication has remained a key focus of our board and our staff, and all wards and outpatient departments now have communication boxes to support people living with vision or hearing impairments or learning disabilities and autism. That's really important that we can ensure that families and patients are able to make informed decisions by ensuring our communication is as clear as possible. We recognised we had more to do as regards raising awareness of people living with delirium, hence assessment education, reducing nighttime transfers and medication reviews were a key focus for our clinical teams to ensure that the best care was given in the most supportive environment. We launched, as Steve said, our clinical vision for flow, right care, right time, and right place, thereby reducing ambulance handovers, reducing ED overcrowding, which we fully recognised was not a good experience for staff or patients, and privacy and dignity was hard to maintain. And we concentrated on making sure that more patients got home in time for lunch, thereby reducing late night transfers. Next slide, please. I'd like to acknowledge with our teams, yesterday was World Patient Safety Day, and many of our teams took advantage on showcasing and sharing their own ways of working and improvements made within their own areas. We successfully introduced the new National Learn from Patient Safety Events system, and that is supported by Level 1 and 2 training. Supporting a safe culture, 98% of incidents reported were where patients came to no or minor harm, making sure that that our staff and colleagues feel supported to raise concerns, not just as regards incidents, but near misses. For maternity care, we have reduced stillbirths by 75% since 2018. And as Steve says, we recognise we have more to do. We have built the foundations for system-wide quality improvement, learning and sharing through QI Cornwall, and we are an active participant in that. Learning and sharing for all is key critical to prevent future incidents. Linked to our clinical vision for flow, we have reinvigorated our work to reduce avoidable harm. Get up, get dressed, get moving, and all of our wards have participated in ensuring that patients not only are dressed, have suitable footwear, but they are also assisted to mobilise and be as independent as possible, as we recognise being in hospital can reduce people's quality of life as regards mobility. Next slide, please. We have had 10% reduction in moderate harm in our pressure ulcer prevention incidents and just under 7.5% reduction in falls per 1,000 bed days. So our integrated improvement plan, we work alongside CFT to ensure that we're collectively doing what we can for patients across both providers, has borne benefits by having shared policies, shared protocols, and shared learning. We have 6 patient leaders who play a pivotal part in developing our services and incredible support in co-production from Kerno Neonatal and Maternity Voices Partnership and our Accessibility Advisory Group. Using patients and experience and voices are hugely important, and we open every single board with a patient story, and that learning is shared widely across the hospital. When Steve has eloquently said every voice counts, that is for staff, patients, their loved ones, and our colleagues across the system. A quality priority is focusing on catheter care, incontinence to avoid hospital admission, and we fully recognise in very trying and socio-economic deprivation that we have recognised that many of our patients need assistance as regards incontinent products and education, and we're working collectively not just across RCHT and CFT, but working with system partners. As Steve has outlined, we had 2 Never events, and we took immediate actions, sharing, learning and reporting, and we will make sure that we revisit those improvement plans to ensure sustainability of those actions. I recognise there is only 3 slides, and this is a whistle-stop tour, and there are so many things I could share, but I've only got a limited amount of time, and I look forward to being able to share further stories in the future. Thank you.
Kim, I ought to say that Kim is a little bit under the weather at the moment, so she's joined us online. But I'm really grateful to you, Kim, and wish you a full recovery very soon.
Thank you.
I think unless there are any, we'll come to questions from the public later. Unless there are any comments or questions from board members to Kim. I'm looking around the room here in Truro and at the screen. If there are no questions, I think we can now move on to Ian Dean, our Chief Finance Officer, for the financial review. Ian.
Thank you, David, and good morning, everybody. So I'm delighted to present a summary of the financial position and our achievements in 24-25. It's been touched on, but in context, I think 24-25 financial year was one of the most challenging that the Trust has had to deliver. As was touched on, a savings target during the year of £32.5 million was our biggest savings target at that point. And we successfully delivered that. And I think, as David put it, the top of the hill, there's another hill behind it, which is bigger. And that is just under £50 million for the current financial year. But the progress we're already making on that with the support of operational and clinical colleagues, as well as our wider system partners, is really pleasing to see. If we can go to the next slide, please. So the context in which we work has remained fairly consistent with previous years. We have a system approach to managing our financial position across the 3 organisations. So that's the Integrated Care Board, Cornwall Partnership Foundation Trust, and ourselves, the Royal Cornwall Hospitals Trust. And it's really pleasing to be able to report not only did we achieve as an organisation our statutory obligations to break even and live within our resources that we're given, but that was consistent across all 3 parties in our Cornwall and Aldersley health system, which is, again, a really significant achievement that we've managed to deliver for another financial year. The accounts that we prepare, every year we have to do that. We have to do those to quite diligent standards, so they were submitted and prepared on time, and I'll talk more in a later slide on the audit that we then have undertaken on those accounts. If we can move to the next slide, please. So, how did we do? So we achieved a £100,000 surplus against a break-even plan, so bettering our plan that we set at the start of the year. Our turnover, so the level of income that we receive as an organisation, increased to £734 million. And as I've said, we delivered a £32.5 million savings programme within the financial year position. Cash is a really important consideration for the organisation, and at the end of the financial year, we finished with a cash balance of £30.3 million. And as David alluded to, we've kept a really close eye on that throughout the year, including work and support from our partners across the system, in particular Cornwall Foundation Partnership Trust. And I'd like to just acknowledge that as part of today's meeting. We've also invested a significant amount of money in the future of services and in continuing to better our estate and our digital environment, with a spend on our capital investment of just under £57 million. And I'll talk through how that looks in terms of where that gets spent shortly. And another key important measure is that we play our role as part of a large employer in Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly, and that is around making sure that we're paying our suppliers on time. And you can see in this slide that 93.5% by number and just under 95% by value of our invoices were paid on time, making sure that suppliers both locally and nationally are paid in a timely fashion. We can go to the next slide. Thank you. So this is just a further breakdown of where our money comes from. So where does our income come from that we get? And this shows, as you can see in the big dark red section, that the vast majority, 71% of our income, comes from our main Commissioner of Services, which is the Cornwall and Isles of Scilly Integrated Care Board. We also have a significant proportion from NHS England for specialist services, cancer drugs, etc., which makes up a further 20%. And the chart there just shows the various income streams that we receive as an organisation. Next slide, please. Then we spend all of that money because we broke even. So where do we spend it? It won't come as a surprise, and we've already talked about it in the meeting, that the most significant element of our spend is on our staff, and the importance of our staff in the organisation, in the care that we deliver. So just under £450 million of our expenditure, 61% of our spend is on the costs of our staff, and that includes both agency and bank staff, as well as our substantive members of staff. The next biggest on there, again, won't be a significant surprise, the supplies that we use in delivering that care for patients, the consumables that we use, and all the elements that go into delivering the safe and quality care that we aspire to, is another £157,000. So you can really start to see that a significant proportion of our overall spend is either the staff that are delivering the care or the equipment and consumables that are required to service that care. If we can go to the next slide. This slide just helps to explain how that expenditure splits between the different care groups and other departments that we have within the organisation. So 76% of that care is that spend is directly related to patient care. You'll see in this chart there's a significant other percentage of 26%. Just to clarify for colleagues and the public, that includes our corporate budget, so the supporting services that help all of those care groups deliver that care. It also includes our capital charges, so that's things like the depreciation that we have to incur on our buildings and on our physical assets. And it includes a significant element of employers' pension contributions for our staff as well within that. I mentioned earlier that we've invested a really significant amount of money in our capital infrastructure. So this is major investment in capital assets. This is £56.7 million, and this just continues the work that we've seen over the recent years. This is an increase compared to last year, which was £44 million of spend last year. So a further increase, and over £100 million across the 2 years. There's really important elements within all of this, but it ties very closely to some of the strategic ambition that we've got as an organisation that's been covered. So our new Women's and Children's Hospital here on the Trillisk site, we continue to develop that scheme and spent over £5 million on that case and the enabling works to promote and progress that forwards. Our new patient administration system, so our computer system, if you like, eCare, which will revolutionise the way that we deliver care for patients, making it more accessible, making it easier for clinicians, making it better for our patients. We spent over £10.6 million on that significant digital strategic ambition. And as already been mentioned by Steve, we had the construction and the opening earlier this year of the fabulous new outpatient facility at West Cornwall Hospital. £7.3 million was spent on that in this financial year, and overall that was just over £9 million spent on bringing that fantastic facility into use for the patients and residents of particularly of West Cornwall. There's a lot of elements when we talk about capital that members of the public and staff won't see. There's a lot of behind the scenes infrastructure that goes on, and we've invested, as you can see at the bottom of the slide, 18.7 million across making sure that our basic infrastructure and supplies are in place, and that includes enhanced work for fire safety to make sure that we're complying with all of the standards and keeping patients and staff safe. We've also continued to spend significant amounts of our capital on medical equipment, replacing some significant items as set out there. Our replacement of our linear accelerator was £3 million, and we're on course following national funding for our second linear accelerator to replace that during the current financial year that we're now in. We had upgrades and improvements to our cardiac catheter laboratory of 2.7 million. And then across a number of other smaller pieces of equipment, we spent a £4 million sum this year to make sure we've got the best equipment that we can for patient care. So I talked earlier about our auditors. As a public body, we have a duty to have our accounts fully and independently audited. Our auditors, Grant Thornton, undertake this exercise on an annual basis, and they concluded, having reviewed the accounts, that they give a true and fair view with no unadjusted misstatements and no new management recommendations. This is a really significant achievement, and I just want to take the opportunity to put on record my thanks to the professionalism and dedication of the finance team, in particular in the delivery of that. The auditors issued what's called a Section 30 referral to the Secretary of State for Health, and that relates to a historic ongoing cumulative deficit. So it's worth me making the point at this stage that delivery of our financial plan in 24-25 was the 6th year in a row that the organisation has managed to achieve that. This deficit is historical deficit prior to that that sits on our balance sheet, and the auditors are obliged under statute to report that to the Secretary of State for Health. That's been a feature of our accounts for a number of years and is not a new thing. The auditors also undertake what they call a value for money exercise. So this looks both at how well we did in securing efficiency and economy and effective use of our resources, both in the year that's ended, but also looking forward at the scale of challenge that we've referenced on a couple of occasions already. On that, they continued to find that we had one significant weakness around the efficiency and effectiveness of resources, and that was particularly in terms of our cost improvement plans. So that was about both the ability to better identify earlier and across multiple years our plans to increase efficiency and to deliver the increasing requirement for cost improvement, but also recognising that our target for savings had increased from 32 million to 49 million in the coming year that we're now actively in. It's really important at this point to just emphasise that when we look at that, we don't look at that simply from a cost reduction exercise. We are very clear as a board and through our operational colleagues that outstanding care delivered, and Kim alluded to it, in the right patient in the right place at the right time, we know reduces delays for patients, but it also reduces cost in providing that care We know that if we can get the flow of patients through our hospital, it can reduce some of the additional areas that we have to open when we're under pressure. And all of that has helped. And it's really pleasing to see over the last year and into this year some of the fundamental model changes through our clinical vision of flow bearing that fruit in terms of a financial improvement that makes us sustainable in the medium and longer term. So my thanks to everybody, staff and colleagues that are involved in those pieces of work. The final point on this is just to highlight that in a change from previous years, we haven't yet had our audit certificate issued by our external audit partner, Grant Thornton. This is not a unique thing to Royal Cornwall Hospitals Trust. This is a national position, and it's waiting on the conclusion of the National Audit Office's work on the whole of the NHS accounts before that will be issued. I've checked in the last couple of days, and we're still awaiting that. We expect that probably to be published within the next month. But what we will be doing is we'll be putting that certificate on our website at the point it's provided to us, so that patients, colleagues and staff can see that. Just to finish, really, is just to recognise again the amazing achievement that this is in the context. This is managing the financial position alongside the quality of safety and the improvement objectives that we have is no mean feat. And I've been really heartened by the way that colleagues across the organisation have embarked on that journey with us. So just wanted to end with a really positive position there and an excellent achievement to continue. I think I'm handing back to Steve.
Thank you very much, Ian. And can I just echo on behalf of the board everything you've said about all the hard work that's gone into this very clean set of accounts. And also thanks to the chair of our Audit and Risk Committee, Adam Broom, who keeps a very beady eye on all of this on behalf of the public. Steve, could I now hand back to you, please?
Yeah, thank you. So thank you, Kim, and thank you, Ian. We've got a brief video that we'd like to show now for 9 or 10 minutes, just to highlight some of the success in delivery during the course of the year. So Pete, if we can play the video, please.
(2024 to 25) has been a year of significant challenges and remarkable achievements. Our dedicated staff, supported by our system partners and valued volunteers, have continued to provide outstanding care, whilst navigating ongoing operational pressures and the changing needs of our growing and ageing population. Throughout this year, we've maintained our focus on our RCHT values of respect, compassion, honesty, and teamwork, as we've worked to deliver safe and timely care for the people of Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly. Supporting our colleagues' well-being has remained top priority, as we've seen a marked increase in requests for mental and emotional health support through our Employee Assistance Programme. Through our Safe and Compassionate Leadership Programme, we've continued to strengthen support for managers to create positive and supportive working environments. Our international recruitment programme has continued to flourish, with colleagues from more than 80 countries now making up our workforce. This brings incredible cultural diversity, which is reflected in our ongoing commitment to equality and inclusion through our reinvigorated staff networks and the We Are RCHT programme. We've welcomed almost 90 new volunteers this year, bringing our volunteer family to over 400 people across 3 hospital sites and Mary Therese House. From reception desks to companionship, our volunteers provide their human touch, a kind word, a listening ear, or simply a cup of tea or directions to an appointment. We have continued to do well in our waiting time reduction, placing us in the top 20 trusts in the country. Almost 70% of patients go from referral to treatment within 18 weeks. And in February 2025, we had the lowest average waiting times in the Southwest region and the 4th lowest numbers for patients waiting more than 52 weeks for treatment. we are working hard to keep bringing down our waiting times. Our cancer services have seen continued innovation across multiple pathways, and again our performance against waiting time standards is among the best, whilst accepting we want to do even better. The dermatology team won Health Tech Case Study of the Year award for their teledermatology service, while our Late Effects Services team won Radiology Team of the Year for the Southwest region. Our patients rated us top 10 nationally for their care experience. We've continued to transform our outpatient services, with over 65,000 patients now on patient-entitled follow-up appointments, where RCHT remains the top trust in England. This empowers patients to choose when they need to be seen based on their condition, avoiding unnecessary routine appointments. Our patient hub portal is now used across all specialties, with 80% of patients engaging digitally to manage their appointments and access their health information. This year has seen significant investment in our facilities and technology, among them an upgraded cardiac catheter laboratory, a new gamma camera, and replacement of our interventional radiography equipment used in highly complex surgical procedures. Construction progressed on our new outpatient department at West Cornwall Hospital, which opened in May 2025. Our first major project with sustainable energy generation built in from the design stage. This project represents a £9.1 million investment in providing care closer to home for communities in West Cornwall. We've been driving forward the innovation of our eCare electronic patient record, with over 200 subject area experts and 650 care champions helping to prepare for this transformational change to how we deliver care. Our partnership working has been strengthened throughout the year. We've continued close collaboration with Cornwall Partnership NHS Foundation Trust, supporting the development of frailty same-day emergency care services, community assessment and treatment centres, X-ray car, significant development of virtual ward services, and many other transformations to improve how patients can access services. The St Austell Surgical Hub, which opened in November 2024, has already treated over 1,200 patients by the end of March 2025, helping us to reduce waiting times for planned procedures. The support of system partners and the voluntary sector has been integral to our improved urgent and emergency care performance, providing more care for people close to and in their own homes. We've maintained our focus on reducing health inequalities, launching innovative projects like our mobile research van, enabling patients in remote communities to participate in clinical trials without the barrier of frequent travel to Truro. We've carried out almost 81,000 procedures this year, 7% more than we did in 2019. Our ambulance handover times showed significant improvement, moving to some of the best in the Southwest region in February 2025, though we recognise there's still important work to consistently meet national standards. More than 63,000 friends and family tests were completed, with over 92% of inpatients rating their care as very good or good. We received the go-ahead for our Women and Children's Hospital in the first wave of the new hospital programme, and became one of 21 UK sites to host a commercial research and delivery centre. As we look ahead to 2025 to 26, we'll be refreshing our own 10-year plan to ensure we reflect the national plan and the 3 key shifts, from hospital to community, analog to digital, and sickness to prevention. We're committed to our 5 key priorities: improving urgent and emergency care access and ambulance response times, continuing our elective recovery programme, addressing health inequalities, supporting our people, and delivering financial sustainability. We're taking forward our clinical vision of flow, right care, right place, right time, which will help us to deliver safer care, meeting the 4-hour standard for timely care in the emergency department, whilst reducing delays throughout every part of the patient pathway. We're proud to be recognised as a top-performing acute trust nationally, ranking 4th among large acute trusts, and our teams are absolutely committed to further reducing waiting times and ever improving the care we provide. 2024 to 25 has demonstrated once again the incredible dedication of our teams and the strength of our partnerships. Guided by our values of respect, compassion, honesty and teamwork, we continue our mission to provide outstanding care for one and all. Thank you to every member of our RCHT family, our staff, volunteers, our charity and partners for making this year's achievements possible.
Thank you for that video. Thanks actually to all colleagues who are involved in appearing that video, and thank you to Pete and the team for bringing that together. Hopefully, David, that gives a brief summary and reflection of all of the things that Royal Cornwall Hospitals Trust and our staff have achieved over the last 12 months. If I could particularly acknowledge the significant improvements that we have seen in urgent and emergency care performance, that has been our overarching priority, and colleagues across this trust have worked tirelessly to enable that to happen. And it's been really positive as well to see the continuing delivery of great access and outcomes from a cancer services perspective and elective services perspective. We've already recognised the strong financial delivery, and I think Ian's point about that being now the 6th year in a row of delivering financial balance within the organisation is really a very significant achievement, and there are very few trusts across the NHS that would be in that position. As we start to look ahead, we've already touched on some of the really significant opportunities that we are rapidly approaching. The digital transformation, which comes with our electronic patient record, eCare, going live in June next year, is a really important digital transformation step and one part of our digital transformation journey. The capital transformation that will come with Women and Children's Hospital over the next 5 years as we look forward to that opening in 2031. And then we think about the other transformations which we're already actively pursuing, the potential for robotic surgery in this hospital, the potential for a university teaching hospital status, the opportunity for all Cornwall hospitals to be one of the first of the new foundation trusts in the country, and working with other partners across Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly on the other innovations and opportunities that come out of the 10-year plan are really exciting, and all of them will complement and support the intentions we have about continuing to improve our core services and helping to safeguard and protect access to hospital and healthcare in Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly. So very happy, David, to hand back to you and to take any questions that any members of the public or board might have.
Thank you very much, Steve. I think from what Steve, Kim and Ian have said, you can see the extraordinary amount of work which sits underneath the headlines that they were able to give. So I would like to repeat my thanks to everyone. The sharp-eyed might have noted from the video that we've now recruited Doc Martin as our senior medical advisor, so nothing can stop us now. And I really would like to thank Martin Clunes for taking the time and trouble to come to Penzance and unveil the plaque for the new outpatients facility at West Cornwall Hospital, which really gave everybody a lift. And Martin spent time going around all the wards and meeting all the patients, and you could see everybody, the staff as well, were really pleased to see him. And as he said, he has been practicing medicine in Cornwall for 20 years, so it was the least he could do. I also hope that you feel, particularly members of the public who are watching, that we've given a fair and balanced view of our position. We've talked about the things we do well, but we've also talked about the things that need to improve. So with our value of honesty, I think it's very important that we're honest with the public about what our overall position is, and that will continue to be better than our previous best. Could I just ask if there are any comments or questions from board members? If not, could I invite the board to formally receive and adopt the Trust's annual report and accounts for 2024-25? That's approved. Thank you very much. Now we then move on to questions from the public or any other questions that we might have, and I'll invite the Company Secretary to report back on the questions.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm pleased to say we had about 55 people at one point watching our annual public meeting today. So thank you for colleagues and members of the public for joining us. We so far have had one question, and I will raise that now and I'll come to Ella to respond. Richard Evans has asked, can we circulate to all staff the matrix arrangements government are using to measure our segmentation so we can all have the clear aims and goals we're trying to achieve to help us realise more capital funding to improve our services and move into Tier 1? Thank you, Ella.
Yeah, thank you, Richard, for that question. We will do a further update in terms of the detail around where we are as an organisation and where we see our opportunities and some of the areas we need to do further improvement on for all staff. So that can go out in all trust comms, and we'll also include a link to the NHS England website, which has the full national oversight framework for people to look through. Thank you again for your question.
Thank you, Ella.
That's it, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So that brings us to the end of our annual public meeting. Could I thank all members of the public, staff, patients and stakeholders for all of your engagement and interest, and thank members of the board for your continuing stewardship of our trust. I think that completes our business, Lindsay, so I'll declare the meeting closed. Thank you very much.